United States government drugged its own citizens with LSD. Not soldiers in a war zone, not criminals in a prison, ordinary people, hospital patients, college students, people who walked into a doctor's office seeking help and left as unknowing test subjects of a classified CIA mind control program. This was not a rumor. This was not a conspiracy theory. This was confirmed by the United States Senate, admitted by the director of the CIA, documented in declassified government files. It ran for 20 years, across 44 universities, 12 hospitals, 3 prisons, apartment buildings in American cities where people were lured off the street, drugged without their knowledge, and observed from behind two-way mirrors by government agents who took notes and called it research. This is MKUltra, the most disturbing government program in American history, and almost nobody was supposed to know it existed. Before we go further, you need to understand something. This did not happen in a foreign country. This did not happen under a dictatorship. This did not happen in a history book you can close and put away. This happened inside American universities, inside American hospitals, inside apartment buildings in American cities in San Francisco, in New York, where ordinary people walked past on the street below, completely unaware of what was being done to their fellow citizens one floor above them. The people who ordered these experiments were not rogue agents acting alone. They were senior officials of the United States government, operating with full institutional knowledge and a classified budget running into the tens of millions of dollars. And when it was over, not one of them spent a single day in prison. Not one. This is not a conspiracy theory. Every fact in this video comes from declassified government documents, congressional testimony, and court records. What you are about to hear is the verified truth. To understand how MKUltra happened, you have to understand the fear that created it. It is 1915. The Cold War has just begun. American soldiers are fighting in Korea, and something is happening to the prisoners of war that the US military cannot explain. American POWs are appearing on North Korean television, making public confessions, admitting to crimes they almost certainly did not commit, smiling, cooperative, completely broken. The CIA had one word for it: brainwashing. And they were convinced, genuinely convinced, that the Soviet Union had developed a technology to override the human mind, to take a man and rewrite him from the inside. The director of the CIA, Allen Dulles, made a decision that would define the next 20 years. If the enemy has mind control, America needs it first. On the 13th of April 1953, the same year Stalin died, the same year the Korean War ended, Dulles signed off on a classified program with a budget of 6% of the CIA's entire operating funds. He called it MKUltra. Its mandate, written in a classified memo, was 3 words long: behavioral modification research. What those 3 words meant in practice was something far darker than any memo could contain. MKUltra was not a small program. At its peak, it involved 150 separate research projects. It operated across 80 institutions, including 44 universities, 12 hospitals, 3 prisons, and multiple pharmaceutical companies. Its annual budget, adjusted for today, exceeded $100 million. And at the center of almost everything was a single drug: LSD. Lysergic acid diethylamide had been discovered just a decade earlier. The CIA became obsessed with it. A dose the size of a grain of salt could send a person into hours of complete psychological disorientation. Hallucinations, paranoia, total loss of self. They believed it was the key to unlocking the human mind. But here is where MKUltra crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. They did not test LSD on volunteers. They tested it on psychiatric patients who had come to hospitals for treatment, on prisoners who had no ability to refuse, on soldiers who thought they were receiving routine medical evaluations, on civilians who had no idea they were inside a government experiment. The CIA even tested it on their own officers, sometimes telling them in advance, sometimes not. One sub-project was given the name Operation Midnight Climax. CIA agents rented apartments in San Francisco and New York. They hired sex workers to bring unsuspecting men from the street. The men were given drinks laced with LSD, and CIA officers watched everything from behind two-way mirrors, taking notes. The agent in charge, a man named George White, later wrote in his personal diary, and I want you to hear these words exactly as he wrote them. That is a CIA officer, writing about a US government program, and he thought it was fun. Frank Olson was 42 years old. He worked as a biological weapons researcher for the US Army. He held a top security clearance. He was not a radical. He was not a whistleblower. He was a scientist who believed in what his government was doing. In November 1953, Olson attended a work retreat at a CIA facility in rural Maryland. During a dinner with colleagues, his drink was secretly spiked with LSD, a practice so routine within MKUltra that the person who did it barely recorded it. Olson's reaction was severe. He became profoundly disturbed, paranoid, psychologically fractured in ways that did not resolve. His colleagues watched him deteriorate over the following days and grew alarmed. He told people he had made terrible mistakes, that he knew things he could no longer live with. He was brought to New York for what was described as psychiatric monitoring, though the CIA was also monitoring something else. They were concerned about what Frank Olson might say to someone outside the program. On the 28th of November 1953, at approximately 2:30 in the morning, Frank Olson went through the closed window of room 1018 of the Statler Hotel. He was found on the pavement 10 floors below. His wife was told he had a breakdown. She was given almost no information. His 3 children grew up without their father. The CIA classified everything. In 1975, the truth began to surface through a congressional investigation. The government paid the Olson family a settlement and issued an apology. But in 1994, 40 years after his death, Frank Olson's family had his body exhumed and examined by a forensic specialist. The examination found blunt force trauma to the skull, injuries that were inconsistent with a fall through a window, consistent with being struck, knocked unconscious before going through the glass. The New York City medical examiner amended the cause of death: homicide. Frank Olson was murdered by his own government. The people who ordered it were never charged. The people who carried it out were never identified. The case remains, technically, open. MKUltra ran for 20 years. In 1973, as the Watergate scandal was destroying the Nixon administration and congressional investigators were beginning to look at CIA activities, the director of the CIA, Richard Helms, gave an order: destroy everything. CIA personnel shredded boxes of MKUltra documents, files covering 20 years of experiments on thousands of unknowing people were fed into shredding machines. The scientific records, the financial records, the names of the victims, the identities of the researchers. Gone. It should have been the perfect cover-up. But a CIA employee had misfiled a set of financial documents, budget records, invoices. They had been sent to a record storage facility instead of being destroyed. When a Freedom of Information Act request swept through CIA archives in 1977, those documents surfaced. Investigative reporter Seymour Hersh obtained them. Congress convened hearings. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence sat through testimony that made grown men visibly uncomfortable. Former CIA Director Stansfield Turner sat before the committee and admitted that yes, the program had existed. Yes, American citizens had been experimented on without their knowledge. Yes, some of them had been permanently harmed. The American public learned what their government had been doing inside their universities, their hospitals, their cities for 2 decades. And then they waited for the prosecutions. They are still waiting. Not one person was charged. Not one person was tried. Not one person served a single day in prison for what was done to thousands of unknowing human beings across 20 years of classified experimentation. The CIA called it a different era, a Cold War necessity, a regrettable chapter. The victims called it something else. MKUltra officially ended in 1973. The apologies came years later. The settlements came after that. The family of Frank Olson received their apology from President Gerald Ford in 1975. A handshake and a check for $750,000. The program is history now. That is what we are told. But here is what I cannot stop thinking about. The entire exposure of the largest government mind control program in American history, the program that ran inside 44 American universities, 12 American hospitals, and apartments in American cities for 20 years came down to one box of documents that one person forgot to shred. One box. If that box had been properly destroyed, if one CIA employee had done their job that day, we would know nothing. MKUltra would not be a Wikipedia article. It would not be a Netflix documentary. It would be a rumor, a conspiracy theory, something people would be mocked for believing. We would have no idea it happened, which means, and I want you to sit with this question, how many programs like MKUltra exist right now that we do not know about? Not because they didn't happen, but because no one forgot to shred the right box? The CIA did this. They admitted it. No one was punished. That is not ancient history. That is a fact about the institution that exists today. This has been Hollow Cure. If this made you see something differently, subscribe, because we are just getting started.